जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि चिंत। देखिए, आज जरा बड़ा ही पेचीदा सा सब्जेक्ट है। आईएसआई को हम थोड़ा सा नजर रखेंगे, क्योंकि देखिए, पाकिस्तान के पास तो पैसे हैं नहीं, एंड ये एक गिवन चीज है कि आईएसआई के पास कहीं ना कहीं से पैसे आते रहते हैं। काफी हद तक ड्रग से आते थे, अभी भी आते हैं, बट देयर इज सम मोर सोर्सेज दैट वी नीड टू टॉक अबाउट। क्योंकि जैसे जैसे दुनिया बढ़ती है, आईएसआई भी उतनी ही आगे चलती है। ठीक है, तो देयर इज समथिंग विच इज हैपनिंग, एंड ये चीज इसराइल हमास वॉर से भी पहले दिल्ली में एक इंसिडेंट हुआ था, उसके बारे में भी बात करेंगे। एंड दैट गॉट कनेक्टेड, काफी लोगों के कान खड़े हुए थे उसमें कि यार ये क्या हुआ। तो चलिए, लेट मी इंट्रोड्यूस मिस्टर राजा मुनीब। पहले तो ही इज बीन ऑन द शो बिफोर, एंड वेलकम बैक। दिस इज आई थिंक आवर फर्स्ट लाइव शो। थैंक यू सो मच सर फॉर जॉइनिंग अस, एंड वेलकम टू द शो।
Thank you, Aadi. Yes,
तो
it is our first live show.
yes. So, the most important thing I want to talk about, पहले तो let's talk about the drugs part of it, right? Drugs में जो भी कह लीजिए, अभी अफगानिस्तान से तो थोड़ी सप्लाई कम है, right? They've cut off a lot of things from Afghanistan. तो how do you see the whole drug game as per se in Pakistan? कैसे ISI इस चीज को अभी, have they found new drug fields? Have they done something different? क्या किया है इन लोगों ने?
See, when we talk about Afghanistan and their supply chain, understand one thing that 92% of the opium which is produced in the globally is produced in Afghanistan. Okay. So that is the volume of opium which is produced in Afghanistan. And I'm not talking about cannabis at all. That is another, 3,500 tons a year manufacturing they have. वो उसके ऊपर है. तो globally अगर हम देखते हैं, if we look at the amount of business this drugs do, it's about nearly $70 billion a year is what essentially globally the drug money generates. And now this has, and majority of the money is either Afghanistani cartels or the Colombian cartels and some Mexican cartels. So, South America में तो Sinaloa cartel is very, very notorious for having the majority of the stakes. But अगर आप drugs का trend देखोगे और increase देखोगे आप, you will see that there is a steady rise of addiction in Europe, especially in Europe. Now, if you look at how this drug is distributed from Afghanistan, so basically what happens is 60% of the drug goes to Iran, and from Iran goes to Central Asia and to Europe. About 55% of Europe's जो opioid है उसका supply जो है वो अफगानिस्तान है. Right, so rest 40% it comes through the Indian Ocean, which includes India, which goes to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and the rest of the Asian countries, South Asian countries. Now, when we say that it is less, it is not less. On the contrary, the production is very high. Pakistan में जो opiate market है, सिर्फ opium की market, it's a nearly $2 billion market in Pakistan alone.
Wow.
That is how big this market in Pakistan is, right? So, yes, we might say that now what has happened is we have seen a lot of seizures happening from 2019 onwards. There is a huge crackdown by the Indian government, by the NCB, by the ANTF, all these organizations who are essentially dealing with anti-trafficking and all that. आपने अभी बताया कि वो दिल्ली वाला, अगर आपको नाइट क्लब वाला याद होगा, बट उससे भी बड़ा अगर केस है वो लास्ट ईयर का, अगर आपको मुंद्रा पोर्ट का याद होगा, जहाँ पे 3,000 kgs ऑफ नार्कोटिक्स जो था वो पकड़ा गया था, कोकेन पकड़ा गया, बिगेस्ट हॉल, 21,000 crores मार्केट वैल्यू था उसका, राइट? So see the volume of what is being played in this region alone through India and Indian periphery, Indian Ocean, and ये कैसे इसको चलाते हैं. So अच्छा, इसमें सबसे बड़ी चीज ये है कि अगर आप देखेंगे कि ये चलता कैसे है. So ISI has outsourced this to a Lashkar-e-Taiba basically. Lashkar-e-Taiba alone is responsible for 70% of the trafficking of drugs which comes from Afghanistan into Pakistan and then essentially towards South Asia. इसमें सबसे बड़ा कार्टेल जो है वो हाजी सलीम करके एक है. He's known from ISI and having links with ISI and Lashkar-e-Toiba. वो लश्कर-ए-तोयबा की फंडिंग भी करता है, लश्कर-ए-तोयबा की रिक्रूटमेंट भी देखता है, और कश्मीर में उसने रिक्रूटमेंट push भी करने की कोशिश की. Along with narcotics, he has tried to push in, men of elite from across the border last year also. So Haji Salim का जो जितना भी अभी तक इंडिया में we have seen from 2019 onwards, जितना भी narcotics पकड़ा गया है, 70 to 75% जो उसका haul है वो हाजी सलीम के साथ connected है. Now mostly Haji Salim operates in the Indian Ocean. So what they do is they basically use a big trawler, somewhere they make a shift in the middle of the ocean. Smaller fishing boats होते हैं, towers होते हैं, तो इनसे ये छोटे छोटे boats में इनको supply करके और ये आगे निकाल देते हैं. What Pakistan also very smartly did after Taliban came into power is that they shifted a lot of processing units. क्योंकि opium तो raw है, अफगानिस्तान में cheap है. The biggest problem Taliban के लिए ये है कि alternate crops की UN बात करती है या बाकी countries बात करती हैं, but this business is so big कि no farmer is ready to go into alternate crops because that is not going to give them the money. Taliban alone का अगर आप revenue देखते हो, it is around $400 million a year only on taxes which they get from the cartels or from the growers of Afghanistan. $400 million का सिर्फ taxes का है, वो टैक्स कलेक्ट करते हैं जिसको जजिया बोलते हैं. बेसिकली दे इस्लामाइज, उसको इस्लामिक कर दिया उन्होंने उसको हलाल बना दिया कि हम जी इस पे टैक्स लेते हैं, जजिया लेते हैं और इसको हमने बिल्कुल हलाल कर दिया, आप ये काम कर सकते हैं. पाकिस्तान का जो ISI का जो नेटवर्क है वो आप देखो कितने टाइम से चल रहा है, राइट फ्रॉम 1979. In 1984, there was an Air Force officer which was essentially caught on the Afpak border holding heroin worth $400 million worth at that point of time. This, everybody says the Pakistani economy is going to die. Pakistan has two economies. One economy is the legit economy, जो उनका है, जो system है, और दूसरा उनका जो है ना वो narcotics की economy है. The conflict economy जिसको हम बोलते हैं. And this economy is very huge. And essentially, every journal is involved, every brigadier is involved. In fact, last time also when they wanted to cut down, it was the corps commander of one area who actually went and said, you cannot stop this because our boys get benefited from this.
हद है.
ये हमारे लड़के देखते हैं, आप बंद नहीं कर सकते. तो ये जो relationship है between the Afghans and the ISI, ये एक ऐसा relationship है जो despite having all the bad blood between them, this relationship is not going to break because this is a very, very crucial relationship these two have. अभी हेरोइन का पैसा आप देखो, मैं आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. $25,000 की अगर आप लेट्स से कि $25,000 a kg अगर इनका प्रोड्यूस जो इनका माल है वो निकलता है अफगानिस्तान से या पाकिस्तान से, by the time it reaches Australia or New Zealand, the value of same $25,000 becomes a value of $350,000 to $400,000 a kg. Now you see the margins they play with. And this is pure heroin I'm talking about. Then it's get diluted. Then you have, methamphetamine tablets जो पाकिस्तानीज़ अलग बना रहे हैं, उसका अलग business है. That is around $94 million का तो कैनबिस का रेवेन्यू है इनका साल का अफगानिस्तान से. मेथ का अलग रेवेन्यू है इनका, एंड हशीश का अलग रेवेन्यू है इनका. So this whole thing, in a global market, if you look at it, $65 million अगर $65 billion dollars अगर is the total $65 to $80 billion का अगर ये ट्रेड है, essentially 40 to 45-50% जो है वो अफगानिस्तान से रन होता है और ISI का उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा हाथ है. छोटा सा एग्जांपल दूंगा, अगर आप देखोगे कि कैसे फंड करते हैं ना, when we talk about terrorism, we are mostly thinking about buying weapons and buying grenades and buying ammunition and spending on it, which is essentially not true, because they also have the budget which is cut 40 to 50% for arms and ammunition. 40 and 50% of this money then essentially goes into preparing the people on the ground, and which involves a lot of NGO activities, which involve a lot of publication activities, which involve a lot of overground activities, systems to sustain them, businesses, shell companies. So, this whole thing is like, you can say it's a parallel economic world which is being run out there by criminals, organized gangs. Everybody is a member. Chinese gangs are big in narcotics these days. They are making full, use of their relationship with Afghanistan and with Pakistan. They're heavily involved. So Chinese are also involved. The Pakistanis are involved. China का फिर आपका वो घूम के आता है, वो म्यांमार के साथ भी उनका टाई अप है, वहां से घूम कर आता है और वहां निकल जाता है. इस साइड भी आता है, ऊपर वाली साइड भी निकल जाता है. अच्छा, आप ये देखो कि हाजी सलीम जो है वो श्रीलंकन ड्रग कार्टेल को भी सबसे ज्यादा सप्लाई वही करता है.
Wow.
And the purpose of that supply was to revive the LTTE back in Sri Lanka. So there is a notorious guy by the name of Gunu Sekara or something, is known as Gunu in Sri Lanka, who runs basically the biggest cartel in Sri Lanka. And the idea behind that was, और ये NIA ने इनको पकड़ा भी था, एक मॉड्यूल भी पकड़ा था इसका, रिवाइविंग ऑफ LTTE का तमिलनाडु में. उन पे केस भी चल रहा है, कुछ दिन पहले उसका एक अपडेट भी आया था. So essentially आप देखो कि how much involved they are with their drug money. And this is just the drug money they are using. We are not talking about other streams of their financing, terror activities, or you can say, other anti-national activities across India or across the globe. And it is not only with Lashkar-e-Toiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed or anybody. आदि, अब इसमें क्या हो गया ना, ये एक इनका सिंक्रोनाइज्ड ग्लोबल सिस्टम बन गया. अब मैं आपको छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. हमास का भी जो, अगर आप ईरान का देखोगे, जो 60% ईरान से जाता है, मोस्टली जो पैसा है जो ईरानियंस ट्रैफिक अप करते हैं. There was a time, I think it was 2008 or 2009, Iran spent about $900 million. I'm so sorry, $900 million in their border fencing, so this problem doesn't get into Iran too much. But आज के टाइम में अगर आप हमास का देखोगे फंडिंग, अगर आप हिजबुल्लाह की फंडिंग उठा के देखते हो, ये सारी फंडिंग जो है ये नारकोटिक्स से होती है. हमास का लास्ट ईयर का 40 मिलियन प्लस का जो है वो फंडिंग जो है वो सिर्फ हमास की है. Right. Wow. So इनका एक synchronized system बन गया है, and it is more towards global terror. It is more towards and then we are not even talking about organizations like ISKP or छोटी and Shia organizations operating in Pakistan, Jaish-e-Mohammed operating in Pakistan. We are not even talking about those organizations. We are talking about main organization Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Al-Qaeda linked groups जितने थे अफगानिस्तान में, right, and Taliban. So these are the major stakeholders, major players, and at one end they have tied up with ISI, at the other end they have tied up with IRGC. So दोनों end पे जो tie up है और ये दोनों जो business है, ये दोनों जो वहाँ से essentially handle होता है. So that is how the narcotics is panned out at this moment.
तो इसका kingpin कौन?
The kingpin is the ISI. The kingpin, Haji Salim is the guy who's. मैं आपको छोटा सा डेटा देता हूँ हाजी सलीम का. I had it somewhere. Just give me a moment. I'll tell you. Yeah. 300 kg heroin, 500 kgs of methamphetamines, 600 kg of hashish is what the Salim cartel alone has pushed through India for now and has been caught. And the major, अच्छा अब आप ये देखो कि एक टाइम पर होता था कि you have Sinaloa cartel, या उससे पहले जो था वो Pablo Escobar था, and they had a brand names. तो अफगानिस्तान से भी आज की डेट में ना हेरोइन के brand names हैं. So there are brands like Pegasus, there are brands like Dragon, 999, Antwerp, right, Rotterdam. So Dragon, ये सारे जो हैं अभी इन्होंने क्या किया है कि इन्होंने अपने कार्टेल 555 we got off.
No problem. 555 के बाद कट गया.
Yeah, so 5559, हाँ 555 999 Dragon जो है ये सलीम है, brand name है. So he operates with these kind of stamps from Afghanistan. So they are quality based कि कितना purity है, 99% purity है, 90% purity है, 80% purity है. Based on that, it's 555, 999 and Dragon and all that. So if you remember last time on LOC, there was an infiltration bid where 2 of the terrorists were shot dead. And once their bodies were retrieved, the only thing on their body was packets of heroin. They were not carrying any weapon. They were trying to cross only with the heroin. There were no weapons on them. Essentially, what they do is, they try to push the narcotics around,
All
and
right.
then the weapons are sold. So,
I'll stop you right here. 1 second. आपका नेटवर्क थोड़ा सा गायब हो गया था. Okay.
is
Essentially,
it
what
better
they're
now?
trying to do is push. Essentially, what they're trying to do is push. के बाद we lost you.
Yeah. Essentially, what they're trying to do is they're trying to push the narcotics around because they know that they can. If you look at how the BJP has handled the whole, and kudos to this government, they've gone that they cancelled the FCRA of the NGOs. Now, what is the money
Yeah.
laundering system? It's either the Hawala or funding through NGOs who then go on the ground and start funding different things, or get into different streams of workings of people. So once you go and you literally squeeze that funding, you are not left with any other option but then to use these means. So I was talking to one officer one day and he was telling me the same thing. He said that इनका ये होता है कि यार अगर वेपन पकड़ा जाता है वेपन पकड़ने दो मगर नारकोटिक्स नहीं पकड़ना चाहिए नारकोटिक्स निकल जाना चाहिए क्योंकि नारकोटिक्स इज द मेन सोर्स ऑफ फंडिंग राइट नाउ एंड मेन सोर्स ऑफ जो इनका वर्किंग है वो नारकोटिक्स पे चलता है and this threat is not only in Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir तो मतलब बहुत छोटा है. The amount which is getting traded on the ports, the amount which is, the quantity which is being peddled through the Indian Ocean is mind-boggling, is staggering. Ports ke through. So now we have, we are thinking of putting those X-ray machines on ports and container scannings and all that. That all is going on, and that is why we caught those 3,000 kgs of heroin last year. And that gang is still operating. 3,000 crore का आप देखो value क्या बनता है और उसके बाद भी they are operating because their profits are so high कि they are eventually able to sustain. Their one consignment gets caught, their other 10 or 5 consignment goes through. They have made enough money. Their losses are covered and dusted. They don't worry about it. So it is the biggest
Man.
business which is there right now.
तो अभी ISI जो है basically controls all this entire network.
Absolutely. See, nothing in Pakistan is going to move without ISI or the Pakistani army. वहां तो परिंदा भी पर नहीं मार सकता ना, आप तो मुंह भी नहीं खोल सकते विदाउट उनके कंसेंट. तो इतना बड़ा अगर ट्रेड हो रहा है और देन एसेंशियली व्हेन योर ओन person is involved who's handling ISI and Lashkar-e-Toiba, so it's more than एविडेंट कि पाकिस्तान में चल क्या रहा है. पाकिस्तान में आप देखो ना ओपियोइड प्रॉब्लम कितनी है. 7-8% पॉपुलेशन जो है नाउ दे आर essentially getting into drugs because the more you supply, it's going to cross your land. The more it crosses your land, your people are going to take it, are going to consume it. वो locally तो बिकेगा ही बिकेगा ना. So essentially, अगर हमने कश्मीर में भी देखा कि we had a huge spike of narcotics and huge spike among the people who started taking hard drugs like heroin and cocaine. It was only because there was a lot which was coming through the borders, and once now the crackdown is so much, so essentially it is very, very difficult. Now the route is reversed. Now they try to smuggle in drugs from Punjab. Yeah. So that is essentially how the whole game by the ISI is being played. And it's not only the drugs, then the weapons are involved, then the cryptocurrency is involved, then the dark web is involved, then the legit web is involved, then the shell companies are involved. So that is another whole different dimension of it.
We'll talk about crypto because crypto का तो ऐसा है, half of us don't even understand what the hell it is. तो वो तो एक अलग ही गेम है. We will talk about that, but ये इसके ऊपर I just want to ask you another छोटा सा question is because देखिए अभी आपने ये पूरा network बताया, which is amazing that you literally have it at the back of your hand, which is amazing. But जो मेरे को पूछना है आपसे about the ISI is now, इतना अगर पैसा ISI डील करता है इसके अंदर, एंड इस टाइम पे ऑब्वियसली फंडिंग फॉर द पाकिस्तानी आर्मी भी कम है. ठीक है, अभी तो मैं क्रिप्टो पे नहीं गया, वहां पर तो देयर इज अ होल another सेटअप, स्मगलिंग, ये वो, पीपल स्मगलिंग, ऑल दैट इज टोटली डिफरेंट. ये डजंट इट क्रिएट रिफ्ट्स बिटवीन द आर्मी चीफ एंड ISI चीफ? क्योंकि यार ISI चीफ तो इज लिटरली सिटिंग, ही इज अ multi-billion-dollar CEO है वो तो.
No, ISI chief is a multi-billion dollar CEO, absolutely. But then the chain of command is such, no, that the ISI chief is sitting because the army general wants him to sit there. So it's essentially, it's not, I would not blame ISI for running it. I would say the biggest drug cartel in Pakistan is the Pakistani army, run by the general itself. And then it has been, the specialized branch which handles is ISI, because essentially ISI looks after, its international affairs. So ISI is just part of a Pakistani army. It's basically the general who's a multi. तो ये journals के पास पैसा कहाँ से आता है? आपको क्या लगता है? ये जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में इन्होंने प्रॉपर्टीज दी हैं, कनाडा में है, लंदन में है, अमेरिका में है, राइट? पाकिस्तान उतना वेपन तो खरीदता नहीं है. एड पे यूएस से पैसा आता है, उस पे वो वेपन लेते हैं. उनकी प्रिक्योरमेंट उतनी ज्यादा नहीं है. ठीक है, they are involved into a lot of industries in Pakistan. But then essentially Pakistani economy is not that big that every general can be worth millions of dollars. But if you look at Pakistani journal, every Pakistani journal is worth literally millions of dollars. So this is exactly how it works. This is exactly how they make money.
Amazing. I mean, see, for we think it's a simple little network, but आपने तो ये literally you've opened up the entire region with this network. अभी तो we've not gone north into Central Asia and all that, जहाँ से रशिया में घुसता होगा, इधर जाता होगा, उधर जाता होगा.
Because Pakistan has to sustain a lot of terror organizations. One, you have these Islamic terror organizations. ठीक है, उसके बाद अब आप मुझे बताओ कि ये जो खालिस्तान का हो रहा है, अभी कनाडा में इन्होंने पकड़ा उस ट्रक ड्राइवर से, राइट? 400 मिलियन वर्थ का कनाडा में जो पकड़ा है ट्रक से.
I mean, that's the highest, one of the highest drug hauls in Canada, yaar.
Yes. So कहाँ से आया? So Pakistan also has a huge network to run and huge chain to take care of people from all across the world, because essentially the supply chain is in every part of the world. And then they are sustaining terror organizations left, right, and center. So obviously the money which they are generating is all going into the subversive activities they are carrying out, whether it is in Middle East, whether it is in the Khalistani issue, whether it is happening in UK, it is happening in Canada, Australia, US, wherever. This all is being funded by Pakistan. How is Pakistan able to manage so much of fund? The Pakistanis are only able to manage so much of fund because they are the biggest drug cartel of the world. They are 10 times the size of a Sinaloa cartel or even Pablo Escobar. Nobody realizes it, or nobody talks about it the way it should be spoken about. The world doesn't talk about it. मतलब आपने पाब्लो एस्कोबार पे भी देख लिया, सिनोलोआ पे भी आपने देख ली होंगी, पीबीएस ने डॉक्यूमेंट्री बना दी. Essentially everybody has made movies and stories. How many of the people have made stories or movies or tried to document Haji Saeed, who is just a Lashkar-e-Toiba handler? And then there are others. So nobody talks about it. But these guys exist on the ground. And they are much, much bigger than an Escobar or a Sinaloa.
This is, I mean, see, it's amazing that kind of network really existing in a country like Pakistan. Jo amazing. I mean, my main question would be, पता नहीं यार तुम्हारा इतना बड़ा नेटवर्क है तो लड़ते क्यों हो?
लड़ेंगे नहीं तो नेटवर्क का क्या होगा? ये नेटवर्क लड़ाई से तो चलती है, और कैसे चलेगी? So what do you think Dawood Ibrahim is doing in Pakistan? Why is he an asset for them still? Even if he's living in Karachi, his influence in India is almost over when it comes to violence. But Dawood's drug business across Middle East, across India is still thriving somewhere. He still has contacts and he's valuable to them because he's doing narcotics, from gold to narcotics. I mean, and gold smuggling is also a big part of it.
Yeah.
We'll come to it later. We'll talk about all these things, but I'm just pointing it.
I have a comment by a viewer. He says, so Pablo is a kid in front of Katoristan. You
Absolutely.
Bet, buddy. You bet.
Absolutely.
You bet. I mean, looking at what he just told us, I know that there is a network, but looking at what he just told us is it's not a network, it's an empire.
आप देखो ना, opiate industry in Pakistan is nearly $2 billion, nearly touching $2 billion. Only in Pakistan. I'm not talking about Iran.
Let's get to the cryptocurrency because I want to talk about that. ये जो हमास की war शुरू होने से पहले there was a chap in Delhi who lost 30 crore rupees in a crypto heist.
Yes.
And बाद में पता चला कि that thing went straight into Gaza. So the fund was
So
entirely
Hamas
picked up from India and transferred into Gaza. 30 crores, huh?
yeah. See, Hamas last year by October 7, their crypto funding was about $40 million, $41 million. The total cryptocurrency which has gone into cryptocurrency, which has been accumulated in the name of Palestine and Gaza, is around $110 million. 41 went to Hamas and its related military wing. And Hamas का तो ये है कि Hamas has its own dedicated wallet. Till now, Israelis have banned 186 Hamas-related cryptocurrency wallets to the tune of millions of dollars. And this is what we see on the surface. This is not what I'm talking on the dark web. This is the legit business we are talking about. So it may be legit or illegit. The illegit happens on the dark web. If you remember, there is a lot of talk on how these people have been able to get these weapons, these American weapons. Essentially. और ये हमने अब जैश मोहम्मद के पास भी देखे हैं, इनके पास अमेरिकन वेपन्स पड़े हैं, M4s they have, right? So when the Ukraine-Russia war started, about 8 months after it started on the dark web, the American weapons came on sale. The Ukrainians started selling the weapons on the dark web.
Dark web, huh?
And they started picking it up from there and started buying it from there. And this whole trade happens in cryptocurrency. So it's two cryptocurrencies, either Bitcoin or the other one is called, I think, Monaco or something like that. Pretty similar. My name bhul gaya on the top of my head. I'm so sorry. These are the go-to currencies of these organizations. And essentially, then what is linked to it? Muslim Brotherhood is linked to it.
And all of them are mining China.
Look at the properties they own across the world. Ismail Hania $5 billion properties या $5 billion worth कैसे बनाकर बैठा हुआ है? UN की एड खा खा कर तो नहीं बैठा हुआ ना वो.
So आपका दूसरा नाम मोनेरो था?
Yeah, Monero, exactly. Thank you. So Monero is the go-to currency for them.
Amazing. I mean, we've spoken about drugs, we've spoken about crypto. Before we get into the audience questions, मैं आपसे अभी पूछता हूँ. Let's talk about the peripherals. जो आप आसपास चीजें हैं, जैसे गोल्ड हो गया, पीपल स्मगलिंग हो गया, उल्टे सीधे थेफ्ट्स हो गए, शेल कंपनीज में इधर का माल उधर का माल इधर कर दिया, वेपन्स बेच दिए आपने, ये कर दिया वो कर दिया. All that is also there. Now my question is, आपका what do you think is the the scale of that? Because ये जब टेररिज्म करोगे आप, तो उसके अंदर भी आपको ये सब करना ही पड़ेगा. There is no way.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm telling you, it's a parallel economy of the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar economy. ये छोटी-मोटी shell countries, ये shell companies नहीं हैं. These are the companies who are essentially handling high-value real estate across the globe, and in one of the most poshest of the countries, in one of the most poshest cities, right from New York to London to Amsterdam to even Mumbai, Delhi, these are multi-million-dollar properties these people are able to handle. आप देखो ना, मैं आपको छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ आदि. अगर आप कश्मीर का उठा के देखते हो, आप ये देखो कि जब से जमात इस्लामी पे बैन लगा है, उनकी प्रॉपर्टी सीज होनी शुरू हुई. आप उनकी प्रॉपर्टी देखो कितनी है, वैल्यू देखो कितनी है. ये प्रॉपर्टी आई कहाँ से? कितना चंदा जमा कर लोगे आप? ठीक है, आप चंदा जमा करते हो and the money is very huge and that is essentially use that money to show that your hawala money is being to bridge the gap between the two by saying कि हमने इतना चंदा जमा कर लिया, और essentially जो आपका पैसा जो टेररिज्म के लिए आता है, आप उसको वहीं से गैप दिखा के आप कवर कर लेते हो उसको. बट एट द सेम पॉइंट आप ये देखो कि आज की डेट में, लाइक मैंने इस्माइल हानिया का आपको एग्जांपल दिया, वो $5 बिलियन वर्थ है. अब उसके नीचे जो चेन ऑफ कमांड है, उनकी भी तो होगी ना, किसी की 500 मिलियन होगी, कोई 50 मिलियन पे बैठा होगा, कोई 10। ये अब इंडिविजुअल्स हैं जिनकी इंडिविजुअल प्रॉपर्टी इतनी है. Now imagine the scale of properties these organizations would be holding under their belt. Crores of crores of land was being held by Jamaat-e-Islami in Kashmir. Crores. Shopping complexes, lands, houses, businesses. So essentially, it is like, I'm a part of the gang, or I'm part of this one of these organizations, and I'm good at business. Let's say I'm good at X business. They will give me initially, ठीक है तुम ये funding ले लो, ये 5 crore पकड़ो, अपना धंधा start करो. And then essentially I start multiplying that money, and I start buying real estate, I start buying different things, I keep money for myself. My life is comfortable, and I am supplying that money back into the industry through legit ways, through shell companies. और शेल कंपनीज का तो रोल वहां आता है ना आदि, जहां आप जैसे आप जब, अच्छा मैं आपको बड़ी इंटरेस्ट, अभी पहले शेल कंपनीज का बताता हूँ. इनका रोल तो वहां आता है जहां क्रिप्टो करेंसी जो है वो कैश हो जाती है. डार्क वर्ल्ड पे तो आप क्रिप्टो करेंसी को कैश करते ही नहीं हो. डार्क वर्ल्ड पे तो क्रिप्टो घूमता रहता है, बिटकॉइन घूमता रहता है, वहां को घूमता रहता है. So basically using it for purchasing one thing or the other thing or the other thing or the weapon or the drug, वो basically weapon और drug के बीच में वो चलता रहता है. इसलिए रेट जो है उसका बड़ा फ्लक्चुएट होता रहता है, right? But the moment it comes to the surface area where essentially then they have to cash it. Now this country में legal है, चाहे US है, UK, their cryptocurrencies are legal. So once you are cashing them out, then how do you cash them out? You cash them out in the name of real estate. You cash them out in the name of trading agencies. You cash them out in the name of export houses, imports, retail. That is how you cash them out. NGOs, donations. ये जो सब्सक्रिप्शन बेस्ड मॉडल चलते हैं, एसेंशियली जो हम कहते हैं कि एंटी नेशनल है या ये है, या इनका सब्सक्रिप्शन बेस्ड, मुझे बताओ कितने रीडर इनको $100 पे देते हो. It is all part of that money which essentially then individually everybody is putting $50, $20, $100, $10, $5, and they are making money. It's a legit business. So you have essentially from black you have gone to white, and you have then funded the guy, and the guy is doing his job. He's running your narrative, he's running your job, he's doing everything he wants to do in a very legit way. He is a legit businessman. Same was the case with the Delhi nightclub guy. He was running a legit Delhi nightclub. But under the garb of nightclub, look at what he was up to. That is a prime example. So this is how these guys operate. अब क्रिप्टो का भी आप ये देखो कि एक लेवल तक ही आप उसको माइन कर सकते हो, उससे ज्यादा नहीं कर सकते हो आप, राइट? बिटकॉइन का तो है, देयर इज अ लिमिट टू अ माइनिंग, यू कैन नॉट माइन इट मोर देन दैट. दैट इज व्हाई द वैल्यू इज सो हाई. But the advantage is that it's not like we have to spend one whole rupee. We can spend 0.157 also. You can, if you are holding one Bitcoin, you can spend 1.5 also without a problem. So essentially, ऐसे ही घूमता रहता है. So that is why the first thing this government did was ban cryptocurrency and its exchange or its mining in India. It was very important.
That's interesting because देखिए एक चीज और है, ये जो इनका पाकिस्तानी आर्मी का जो नेटवर्क है, as you chip away at it, and काफी सारा तो chip away हो रहा है, ऐसी बात नहीं है. I mean we've been slowly. दूसरा, you've also created some leverage in Afghanistan. कि साहब ये जरा बंद करो, बंदे बन जाओ, तो धीरे धीरे करके वहां पर कम हो रहा है. The question is, the control will become a problem आगे जाके, and this is something that I've been wondering about. As the drug levels reduce in Afghanistan, जैसे आप 100 kg आपको मिल रहा था, ठीक है ना, 100 kg मिल रहा था, अभी वो लेट्स से 60 हो गया या 40 हो गया या 50 हो गया है. जैसे आपको वो 50 किलो का कंट्रोल, फिर वो उतने ही लोग हैं वो 50 किलो को कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली देयर विल बी इश्यूज वहां पर भी.
There will be issues, there will be clashes.
This is what I want to ask as the final question. This is what I want to ask. इसकी साहब अभी इतने क्लैश, ये दिस नॉट एन इजी सिनेरियो टू हैंडल. आपके पास बंदूकें हैं तो दूसरे के पास भी बंदूकें हैं, राइट?
बट
हाउ डज दिस थिंग वर्क?
It will only work the day Afghans, there is only one way of this to work. if the Afghans really want to stop and stop this supply and want to minimize what they are growing opiates and all that, क्योंकि essentially Pakistan ने processing तो बलूचिस्तान में कर रहे हैं, factories डाली हुई है वहाँ पर, right? The Chinese are also processing there, the Pakistanis are also processing there, and now they have moved from heroin to meth tablets. Now the production has changed from the heroin का जो है और cocaine का जो है वो कम हो गया है, और because they've essentially thought see that there is a lot of money and it's easier to trade, easier to smuggle also because the volume is required less, you know. तो अब इसमें ये आदि दो चीजें हैं, या तो अफगानिस्तान जो है it becomes the Taliban becomes a stable factor in Afghanistan. By stable I mean that it becomes a global recognized government of Afghanistan, which at point it is not. आप मुझे बताओ ना, पाकिस्तान, let me ask you a simple question. Pakistan has so many industries, right? How come the Afghan economy is doing better than Pakistani economy when essentially there is bar on Afghanistan?
Americans are giving them $60 million a week.
But is $60 million a week enough for Afghans to keep their economy afloat?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
So unless and until the Afghans, the Taliban is not recognized by the Afghans and by the world, and they get legitimate businesses, they open their minings, they have opened it up, but they get something which is legitimate economic options. It is not going to happen. Second thing it is going to happen is when either Taliban starts controlling Pakistan. Their influence increases so much in Pakistan that essentially they cut out all the other middlemen, the ISI involvement and others, and they trade directly. In that sense also it will go down. But essentially if the Afghans, for Afghans it's a golden geese. They cannot just squeeze it or kill it because essentially they will also get into trouble. They also have to sustain. They will have a civil war inside if they start doing something like this.
No, किया तो है लोगों ने काफी
on the surface of it. On the surface of it, yeah, they're saying we are quelling it, we are doing this, but no. They're just shifting their processes. They're being very smart about it. So either the Afghans, either the Taliban becomes a legitimate government and then, legitimate economy develops in Afghanistan, then this problem can be taken care of. It will not be taken care of entirely, but yes, the effect will be there. Either they have more influence on Pakistan and then they start connecting, essentially controlling the routes themselves, their own people. The Taliban is in charge, not the ISI is in charge. Then also the supply, shrinks. But I don't see Pakistanis, ISI and the Afghans fighting that Afghans will say हम supply नहीं देंगे. मुझे नहीं लगता, unless and until the Pakistanis use the majority of the narcotics to fund ISIS, which they are doing, ISKP.
They are.
In that case, then essentially the TTP will become the biggest player. But उसमें फिर वही पंगा है कि LET एक साइड पे, जैश-ए-मोहम्मद एक साइड पे, पाकिस्तान. Jaish-e-Mohammed is very smart. They're aligned with the Afghan Taliban. They're playing the Taliban game. They're not playing the ISI game. Very smartly. So then that scenario opens up. And if that scenario opens up, फिर क्या होगा? Then the territory war will happen in all countries. You will see these gangs fight, inter-gang जो US में होता था, Mexico में होता था. Essentially that kind of a fight will happen. So that is what will be happening on Afghan-Pakistan border all the time. The Pakis will be killing the Afghanis will be killing the Pakis. And all for drugs.
And वो तो हो ही रहा है.
हाँ, वो अभी तो वो डिफरेंट लेवल पे हो रहा है, बट अभी ड्रग्स के लेवल पे नहीं हो रहा. ड्रग्स पे होगा तो वो फिर कनाडा में भी लड़ाई होगी, वो फिर यूएस में भी लड़ाई होगी.
हो ही रही है.
तो absolutely. So that is where it will go.
My God, this is a good connection that you made. Absolutely. I said that was last, but I'll squeeze in one more. ये जो अभी now ISI का गेम होगा, ठीक है, कहीं ना कहीं आपको we have to look at 2-3 things in this particular thing कि ISI is here. अब पाकिस्तान का एक हिस्सा उधर गया, एक हिस्सा उधर गया, ये तो मैं हमेशा बोलता हूँ. पाकिस्तान टूटता जाए, जो भी कर लो यार, जब तक ये ISI और पाकिस्तानी आर्मी का नेटवर्क नहीं टूटता ना, till the time is not a win, not a victory. Now, what do you think is the इनकी perpetuity क्या है? अभी ये इलेक्शंस हो रहे हैं, यहाँ पर हालत खराब है इसकी. So there's a whole lot of कचरा also happening within the country. पहले तो था कि यार ये लोग एकदम जड़ से कंट्रोल करते थे देश को, right? Today that control is also थोड़ा सा ढीला ढाला सा. It's there,
वो कंट्रोल,
but इतना नहीं है. So how do you think this thing goes forward?
see, this is a very tough time for Pakistan, I'll tell you. अगर आप आज का देखते हो, around 40 people have died, more than 40 have died today, right? Expect another 40, 50, 60 to die tomorrow if people come out to vote. Essentially,
Yeah.
see, the problem with Pakistani army is that they would never want a higher voter turnout. Because higher voter turnout essentially means defeat of Nawaz Sharif. So उसको इन्होंने कंट्रोल करना है. अब आप देखो आज मैक्सिमम कहां पर हुआ है, खैबर पख्तूनख्वा में हुआ है, बलूचिस्तान में हुआ है, ठीक है. अटैक किस पे होता है? अटैक होता है पीटीआई के या इंडिपेंडेंट जो वर्कर्स हैं उन पे होता है. जेयूएफ पे भी अटैक हुआ है, लश्कर तोयबा पे भी आज अटैक हुआ है. सो जो प्रॉक्सी गेम ऑफ organizations within Pakistan है वो चल रहा है. So if Pakistani army is using ISKP against PTI, the TTP is using its wing against others, whether it is JUIF or it is maybe LETOs. So there is a clash happening. Now this clash is also on two things. Adi, there is a problem in Pakistani army. What Imran Khan has done and not many people realize it is, he has created a wedge between the Punjabis and the Pashtuns.
Yep.
And that wedge is clearly visible in Pakistan. वो दिख रहा है. पहले तो ये होता था ना, वो दिखता नहीं था, ये कवर कर लेते थे, ये बड़े पावरफुल थे, डंडे मारते थे. आज की डेट में पाकिस्तानी आर्मी इतनी अनपॉपुलर है कि एक तो लोगों के दिल से उतर गई है, ठीक है. दूसरा, ये जो इंटरनल इनका जो ये रिफ्ट चल रहा है पाकिस्तान में, दे आर नॉट श्योर हाउ टू हैंडल दिस. दिस कैन गो आइदर वे, व्हिच एसेंशियली इज नॉट गुड फॉर पाकिस्तान इन लॉन्ग रन आल्सो. पहले तो ये प्राइम मिनिस्टर की कू करते थे, कहीं आगे जाके कहीं जनरल की कू ना शुरू हो जाए पाकिस्तान में, नया ट्रेंड ना शुरू हो जाए कि एक जनरल जो है वो दूसरे जनरल का कू कर रहा है.
ऑलमोस्ट हुई नहीं.
व्हाट वी सॉ इन सुडान, यू नो, वन फोर्स फाइटिंग द अदर फोर्स.
मई 9 को क्या हुआ था?
वो तो ऑब्वियसली वही हुआ, ऑलमोस्ट वहीं पर गया था, बट ओपनली नहीं हुआ. बट इट कुड बी अ सक्सेसफुल थिंग गोइंग फॉरवर्ड आल्सो.
या एब्सोल्युटली,
right?
एब्सोल्युटली.
So Pakistan is in deep trouble right now. So कल का अगर आप इलेक्शन देखोगे, because essentially if you look at the bungling which army can orchestrate in Pakistan, the voting percent they can manage is between 7% to 11%. So for them to successfully get PMNL in, they cannot afford that voting goes over 40%. Because अगर over 40% चली जाती है, फिर वो 7 और 10 का जो इनका गेम है वो जो है वो कहीं पीछे हो जाए. अच्छा, दिस इज द फर्स्ट इलेक्शन इन पाकिस्तान कि आप देखो कैंपेनिंग, अगर आप पाकिस्तान में देखोगे कोई भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बाहर नहीं निकली. नवाज शरीफ ने एक जलसा किया, वो मरियम ने किया था, उसके बाद नवाज शरीफ ने बयान ही नहीं दिया, वो किसी जलसे में नहीं दिखा. बिलावल भुट्टो ने एक किया, अपने घर में किया, घर के बाहर कहीं नहीं किया. यू नो, मौलाना फजलुर रहमान जिसको डीजल बोलते हैं, he tried. Then he went begging to the Afghans. Akhundzada made him wait 3 days to meet him, and then essentially he came back and he's silent. That guy has gone completely silent, because essentially he was told that we are sparing your life, but stay away. We cannot, you know, guarantee your success or even your life. So that is where Pakistani politicians and their reputation is today, and this is what, thanks to Imran Khan, what he has done to them. So now what happens tomorrow? If there is going to be violence, there will be suicide blasts in Balochistan, there will be attacks in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Karachi there will be firing incidents. In Punjab the voting will be there, वो मियाँ वाले के आसपास, you know, फैसलाबाद के आसपास आप देखोगे, क्योंकि essentially वहाँ आर्मी का भी बहुत है, तो वहाँ पर वो वोटिंग कराएंगे. सिंध में वोट पड़ेगा, राइट. अच्छा, आजाद कश्मीर में भी जो है वोटिंग बड़ी lukewarm ही रहेगी, ज्यादा लोग नहीं निकलेंगे. तो they will try to keep it between 35 and 40%. They are trying their best to keep it between 35 to 40. उसके लिए फिर इनको कल 200 बंदा भी अगर मारना पड़ गया, ये मार देंगे. अगर कल लोग बाहर निकले तो then there will be attacks. अच्छा, मेन टाउन में तो PTI will clash with PMNL workers in Punjab. आप देख लेते, कुछ कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज पे क्लैश होगा. So it is going to be a ruckus, but at the end of the day, obviously the selection has been made now. सिलेक्शन में भी अब लोग ये कह रहे हैं कि विल इट बी नवाज और विल इट बी शहबाज। अब ये ना हो कि नवाज के नाम पे वो नवाज को इलेक्शन हरा दें, शहबाज को जिता दें और बोले नहीं जी नवाज साहब तो इलेक्शन ही हार गए तो हम क्या करें, क्योंकि शहबाज के साथ दे आर वेरी कंफर्टेबल वर्किंग, नवाज के साथ दे आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल वर्किंग। दे डोंट ट्रस्ट नवाज बट दे डू ट्रस्ट शहबाज। So essentially, it's anybody's game. But as far as I see it, it is going to be a very fast election. But then, what does election achieve in Pakistan? Nothing. Another CM PM will come. फिर क्या होगा? They again have to sign an IMF deal. ठीक है, वो 700 मिलियन की उनको फिर वो अप्रैल में फिर से साइन करनी है. They again have to beg for it. And that money is going to come irrespective of who is, even if they make a monkey, I'm sorry to say, a monkey sit on the chair, that money has to come because the Americans need the Pakistanis right now.
हाँ हाँ हाँ, ईरान से कौन लड़ेगा?
हाँ, ईरान से कौन लड़ेगा? तो ISIS को कौन चलाएगा? ISIS को तो पाकिस्तान ही चला सकता है, और तो कोई चलाने के उसमें है नहीं. वो तो चला भी रहे हैं उसको. तो ऑब्वियसली पाकिस्तान की इस वक्त नीड है, पाकिस्तान इस वक्त थोड़ा सा प्यारा है, तभी उनके वो एम्बेसडर कभी POJ के जाता है तो कभी कहीं मिल के आता है, just to keep them on the loop and please them. So the Americans want to play their game. They're going to have this man on the chair. That is what Pakistan essentially is going to go. But the internal security of Pakistan is going to go for a toss.
Yeah.
Because the real battle will start after that. And TTP is not, will be coming all guns blazing towards them. There is no agreement happening with the Taliban in that. And that is what will sink Pakistan.
TTP and BLA.
हाँ, वो तो they are joint force ना, तो उनको तो मैं एक ही force देखता हूँ. आप देखो मार्च में, now look at the Pakistani army. For 3 days, BLA was holding that area in March, and the Pakistani army could not do anything. They lost more than 65 soldiers. Actually, it's very ill-equipped to fight guerrilla war. It is not trained to fight a guerrilla war. So they take heavy casualties. Every time there is a small attack, they take casualties. Their equipments are bad. Their trainings are bad. So essentially, Pakistan is going to be a huge mess. And it's not a good news for us also, because unstable Pakistan on that front is not good, because they will depressurize it towards Jammu and Kashmir and other areas. They will try to do that. परसों की रैली, LET वाले रैली लेकर निकले थे, बो एंड एरो लेकर निकले थे. उन्होंने अपने मैनिफेस्टो में भी डाला हुआ है कि हम तो जहाद करेंगे. So essentially, that is the kind of politics which is coming into Pakistan, which is coming into the mainstream of Pakistan. Now, it is for the Pakistani public to decide, do they want that? Do they want to live under the shade of Taliban? Do they want to be governed by Taliban? If they're happy with Taliban, God bless them. We'll deal with it.
Amazing. I mean, thanks so much. आपने जो डिटेल में बताया है, trust me, it is quite a mind boggler for me at least. A lot of the viewers have also mentioned the same thing, that we know that there is something here, but we don't know the scale and scope of it. So you've given us a very, very good insight into it. Thank you so much for that. Let's take some audience questions, guys. जरा like करो वीडियो को यार, ये चीज पहुंचनी चाहिए. Even so I keep saying that Pakistan is a failed state, but it is not a failed drug network.
It is not even a state now. It is more of a quasi state now. It has so many movements.
I don't consider Pakistan a country. मैं बोलता हूँ इससे वो जो हवा है ना उस जगह पे, जितनी उसके नीचे जो लैंड है, that area is called some
somewhere that area is Pakistan. Absolutely.
So this is my description of Pakistan. So I don't say it's a country, but guys, as I was saying, like the video, subscribe to the channel here, and push from your side, please. Spread the word about Dev Talk. Share these videos with your friends and family so that they also join in to the fun that we have in learning about what is happening around. So जरा जोरों शोरों से like करिए वीडियो को, and push that forward. आप लोग मेरी तरफ contribute, चैनल की तरफ contribute भी कर सकते हैं using the QR code जहां पर ऊपर है. That is for direct contributions, या फिर आप super stickers और super chats भेज सकते हैं, या फिर आप PayPal का ऑप्शन जो डिस्क्रिप्शन में है, अगर आप देश से बाहर रहते हैं, you can use that as well. Let's take some questions and see what the audience has to say. सबसे पहले KSV Prasad ji, thank you so much. He says, how much stake does the CIA hold in narcotic trade in the subcontinent? What is the influence within the Pakistani army?
The influence is big. The CIA facilitates essentially their networks into Europe and into Pan America. Because CIA is a partner when it comes to funding, ISI, and when it comes to terror funding, especially in Pakistan. If you also look at the way CIA deals with a lot of people who are from Muslim Brotherhood, who are essentially linked with Hamas and Hezbollah. Also, at some point of time, they were linked with Hezbollah as well. It's CIA essentially who provides them the patronage. So CIA is equally responsible for the Pakistani networks, and they are the facilitators of Pakistan looking at that part of the world.
Amazing. Today, another attack happened. A resident of Punjab's Amritsar was killed in Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, after unknown terrorists opened fire in the area. Another person was critically injured. I mean, sorry to
Yeah,
hear
two
that sad
labor,
news.
very unfortunate incidents. But look, we have talked about me and Aadi about this. Uh, Terrorism will continue from Pakistan. Don't expect that it is going to stop 100%. Yes, the scale will come down in Jammu and Kashmir. The scale has definitely come down. But we do expect that, इक्का दुक्का कहीं ना कहीं जहाँ इनको मौका मिलेगा वहां पर ये कुछ ना कुछ करेंगे, because they have to show their presence, and especially कल पाकिस्तान में election है, so they have to show that they still hold that reign and that power to do anything in other parts of India, or in Jammu and Kashmir especially, that they have not lost the game entirely. So somewhat expected, but it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
It is, it is. There's no question. Anand ji, thank you so much for this very important question, actually, and good information that he's given. He says, I'm a merchant mariner of a command rank. The PNSE, the Pakistan National Shipping Corporation, has handful of 6 to 7 only old merchant vessels with ISI affiliated masters, and they do the drug carrying for them.
No, absolutely, he's right. So, they don't not only use their own maritime vessels, and then, they shift to smaller cargo boats, or they shift to smaller fishing trawlers. They use a lot of Iranian vessels as well. So Iranians and Pakistanis milkar jo hai Indian Ocean mein, they do this narcotic trade on both sides of things. So absolutely, you're absolutely right, Anand, on that.
Ramnaji, he says it's very clear that CIA is running tomorrow's Pakistani election. What do you think are their post-election plans?
Well, the post-election plans are going to depend on how the Pakistanis behave tomorrow. Now, CIA also has very limited stakes when it comes to the post-election, management in Pakistan. Essentially, Pakistani army would have promised them that Nawaz will stay in power, or PMNL will be the only party which will win. But look, there are two things which are very important. Agar the voting stays between 35-40%, what is going to happen is what we have seen in Pakistan, always what has happened. But if the voting goes up, the violence is going to go up. Now, also, if the voting goes up and they declare PMNL, then the PTI guys have the potential to come on the roads. And if PTI guys come on the roads, or public comes on the road protesting that it's a sham election, then the Pakistani army wedge is also going to play its role somewhere. And they're going to fuel that. क्योंकि PTI का जो है, strategy बड़ी clear है कि do not boycott, but be as disruptive as you can be, and delegitimize this government as much as you can. So they are not going to leave any stone unturned to make it appear that way. So that is what exactly is going to happen. So a lot depends on how many people come out to vote tomorrow. Keeping an eye on that.
Xi Jinping. This is a she. सर कोकेन तो कोलंबिया से आती है, ये पाकिस्तान का क्या लिंक है उनके साथ?
मैम, कोकेन कोलंबिया से नहीं आती. कोलंबिया की कोकेन जो है वो लैटिन अमेरिका एंड साउथ अमेरिका और अमेरिकन कंट्रीज में जाती है. मैंने पहले भी कहा 92% ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स ओपियम इज कल्टिवेटेड इन अफगानिस्तान, एंड this cultivation is essentially processed by Pakistan, and then Pakistanis further give it to Iranians and trade some from this side. So if you have heard about Golden Crescent, this triangle is called Golden Crescent. It's the Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan network, and it is one of the biggest drug cartels known in the world right now. Golden Crescent bolte hain. So in Asia had a golden triangle. That golden triangle has been overshadowed by Golden Crescent now.
Neeruji asked, Adi, when Katoristanis make so much money from the narcotics empire, why do they go with Bhika Katora to everyone in the world.
See, because essentially they are not going to go out in the world and tell them that we sell the narcotics to you and we are the biggest drug traders and we don't need the money and we live a lavish lifestyle. That is why you have two kinds of people in Pakistan, the super rich and the super poor. And the Pakistani economy is in shambles because the super rich is making money from the narcotics, while the super poor is basically left to fend for themselves from the broken economy the Pakistanis have.
जी. So I have a term which somebody's asked me to change. मेरा एक टर्म है कि दुनिया में जो जो भी टेढ़ी मेढ़ी चीजें हो रही है ना, उसमें सिर्फ एक ही टर्म आप लगा दो and you'll get the answer right there. It's called
Mhm.
Sino-Wahabi Leftist Alliance.
It's a very nice term and
ठीक है,
very
so this is
accurate.
something I conned up with. So he's saying Aadi sir should also add drug cartel along with Sino-Wahabi leftist, make it Sino-Wahabi leftist druggy cartel. Yeah, but you know
No, essentially
Sino-Wahabi
all
leftist,
them drugs.
हाँ,
Uh,
वो all this comes under that,
Powered by
you
the
know.
drug cartel. Yeah, their
हाँ,
their their engine is economic engine is the drug cartel there.
actually आपने जो इससे पहले बोला ना Sino-Wahabi leftist alliance powered by the druggy cartel.
Powered by the drug cartel, yes. So it should be powered by them.
Yeah. Partha says the word establishment was used for Pakistani army before, now for the Uniparty in USA. Just now, just like how communism went west instead of democracy going east, was this word also exported? Interesting.
Definitely, once the word gets famous, it needs to be exported and it needs to be extrapolated into so many ways. So absolutely, now the establishment is basically anything which is deep state related to deep state or essentially power holding by only one party, you can say, or one institution which is very strong. So it becomes an establishment because they themselves are a government in themselves. So yes, establishment can be used for US uniparty as well.
Ji. Naruto ji, thank you so much. Rothschild British family who started the deep state. No, it's the aristocracy actually who started the deep state. It's not any family. You want to say anything?
हाँ,
I mean, I do a lot of work on the deep
Rothschild,
state, so
हाँ, so ये रॉथचाइल्ड फैमिली के आसपास ना बड़ी कॉन्स्पिरेसी थ्योरीज है इल्यूमिनाटी की भी जो है वो कॉन्स्पिरेसी थ्योरी वहीं से आती है so these family
hmm.
members and all that, but that's not essentially true. It's not that the Rothschilds started the deep state. In fact, Rothschilds are very much came late into the picture. The deep state has always existed right from Ashoka's time, so
they
there
were
has
the
always been
Rothschilds were the bankers.
they were the bankers, basically steamrolling the bankrolling the deep state for their own thing, but they don't own the deep state. They're
Yeah.
not the deep state.
Sanjay Maini ji, thank you so much. He says, how do you see the rising Captagon epidemic in the Middle East? Captagon is, okay, is Bharat NCB
I-
taking sufficient steps to prevent it from infiltrating our society?
See, there is infiltration is happening. Whether you okay, let me tell you this way. Infiltration is there. How can you minimize it? Is by being very robust about capturing and proactively on intelligence, proactively acting on the supply routes, which we have been doing. But to say that that everything is hunky dory is not true. We are seeing a lot of influx. We are seeing increase in drug intake among the youth, especially in Punjab. We have seen an epidemic. In Kashmir, we are nearing an epidemic. In and in the rest of the countries, that the recreational drugs are a huge business. And if you look at the metropolitans, where essentially the young population resides, whether it's Bangalore, whether it's Mumbai, whether it's Delhi, the recreational drugs are a big business. And to now they are under a limit. It's not that it's going to go and blow up our heads, but then yes, it's a constant worry. And fighting narcotics is a everyday battle. It's like you're fighting. You have to fight narcotics with the same intensity you fight terrorism. So if you're trying to prevent a terror attack, you also have to prevent the narcotic incoming and outgoing as well. You have to be very proactive with them. And for now, thank God, touch wood, we're doing good on this.
JP says, Adi, what would happen if opium cultivation is legalized but regularized? Will the black market trade decrease because the legal income of the government increases?
No, that is absolutely true. I agree with that. But then, if you look at the marijuana when it was made legal in USA, it did had some positive effects on the society as well. But the point is, if is the world ready to make opiates legal, and what are the repercussions of that, right? You would not essentially want to go to a doctor who smokes a joint and then he's going to operate on you. You would run away from him. So just imagine the scale of if you go and make opiates legal, and then the ramifications of that on the society and on the professions of people. So I don't think it's a very easy, it's an easy solution to the problem. It can trigger other problems as well. So I don't think that is going to happen. No country would allow opiates to go legal in their country.
Except Canada.
Yes, but then Canada is also, not a country, it's a British colonial state.
It's a space.
It literally
तो
is.
मैं
It is
बोलता
becoming
I say
Pakistan of the West.
I say देखो guys,
It
see
is.
this. ठीक है, ये देख रहे हो? This is called when minds, saner minds sit together, they speak the same language. मैं तो ये बोलता रहता हूँ भाई, ये पाकिस्तान है उधर का.
It's
So
becoming
don't
Pakistan of the West.
Absolutely. Anko Saab says, sometimes I really wonder why India doesn't play the same dirty game. It will be 100x easier than what we are doing. I feel like we are losing lives and spending too much money. Money is not the concern. Lives, I take your concern. But what do you say?
Look, okay, I'll give you an answer. Look at India and look at Pakistan, and then decide whether you want to be the next Pakistan. You want to play the same game. Because essentially, this game is going to come and bite you, right? We always say that if you rear snakes in your backyard, they're going to bite you. So do you really want India to become next Pakistan? That, I think, answers your question.
Smart answer. What's the role of China in the drug cartel?
Big role. The Chinese cartels are very, very active. They have Xinjiang karke unka ek cartel hai, which is very, very big. So essentially, the Chinese are into the game as well because, they also take a lot of funding from narcotics and then use it. जो आपका वो left का आप जो बोल रहे हो कि we have this surge of left and China is funding. Look at the funding China is doing to universities and to publications. Where is that money coming from? Do you think the Chinese are earning the money and the government is sending them to the newspapers? No. This is the alternate funding we are talking about. This is the alternate economy which fuels all of this. So the Chinese are in the game as much as the Pakistanis are.
Absolutely.
And why do we lack in these things? Because we don't play this game. So that is why we're always fighting on the narrative end. We in fact should do another one on misinformation and disinformation.
We'll do that. Absolutely, sir. Amit Saab says it is happening in the northeast India between Kuki and Maithi for poppy, which is disguised as an ethnic war. I've been saying that since the first day.
That is how it started. This is how the trouble started when they were asked, you will not cultivate and you will stop doing this. The whole hell broke loose in Manipur. That's the reason he's bang on onto that. That is the reason for what has happened in Manipur and the violence we have seen in Manipur.
And the last one we'll take for tonight would be narcotics in Punjab is of deep state's attempt to degrade our bravehearts who form the core of our armed forces and strategic mind, attempting to destroy the Punjabi youth. Punjabi,
not
Kashmiri,
only
that, the urban youth, the kind of drug consumption that happens in these parties and all that in these big cities is crazy. I'm not joking.
चलो मैं आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ how narcotics work. I'll give you a very small example. There was very famous term in Kashmir ki 500 रुपए का पत्थर फेंकते हैं. You remember? 500 rupees it's cost to throw a stone. In 2020 or 21, there was a grenade attack on an army vehicle in Baramulla. The guy who threw the grenade was a drug addict who only charged $200. So अगर पत्थर मारने का 200 ले रहे हो, if you are a drug addict and you're so desperate, आप कुछ भी करोगे. So when you talk about Punjab, yes, you're right. It's about Indian Army and all that. But at the same time, they are desperate to revive the Khalistanis. They have tried so much of Khalistani movement in Pakistan. And drugs is essentially because once you get the youth's mind, then you essentially push them any other way. You can push them to pick up a weapon. You can push them to create havoc in a society. You can push them to do any damn thing because they are so dependent on these drugs. So it's like a toxin. It's like fuel.
Forget the factor that he was doing we threw a grenade and stuff like that. But the $200 thing just,
$200, I think. That's how
it,
desperate these boys go. I mean, I've seen drug
honestly,
cases here. I've seen drug
it
addicts
broke
telling,
something. It broke something inside here. That's
I know,
pathetic.
मतलब घर के switches तक बेच देते हैं यार. They're so desperate for this thing because essentially they can't live without it. I know a boy who comes from a very mediocre family. मतलब माँ है, बाप भी नहीं है, बहन है, माँ है, and that I'm not gonna name him. उसने अपने घर के इलेक्ट्रिक स्विचेस तक बेच दिए थे. तारे ऐसे लटक रही थी क्योंकि he wants it. What do you do? So most of the boys, how do they then fulfill it? They become peddlers. So वो ड्रग बेचना शुरू करते हैं. So it's a very vicious chain because essentially your one dose costs around 3,000 rupees. And if you're taking two doses, 6,000 rupees. 3,000 rupees means 1,80,000 rupees a month minimum expenditure only on drugs. So the only way you can do it is you peddle it, you become a peddler. A small time peddler or a big time peddler, but essentially you're a peddler. A consumer is also a peddler. That's how it works.
I must say, sir, thank you so much. You've brought in a lot of insight into a subject which is seldom spoken about because, you know, as part of a country जहाँ पर हम लोग इतने प्यारे नेबरहुड में रहते हैं जहाँ पर लोग अपना सिर तोड़ लेंगे आपको एक खरोंच मारने के लिए वो so you can imagine what kind of a neighborhood that we are staying in. But to bring about a certain sense of reality, I'd like to thank you.
No, I thank you, Adi, for giving me the opportunity to speak
No,
about
no,
these
not at
things.
all. And you know, as I've said, we will continue this conversation. ये चीज चलती रहेगी, and the association with you will continue, guys. As a this thing, please like the video hard, right? We should at least have 1,000 likes, right? So let's please do that, and so that this information should go to a lot many more people. That has to happen. ठीक है beyond leave alone anything else, information जाती है, information is also power, and that power helps you to kind of fight the whole game, and that's the most important thing. So please like the video before you sign off. Thank you so much, sir, and see you next
Thank
time
you.
very soon. Jai
Thank you
Hind.
for everyone. Thank you. Have a good night, Jay.